Hi there, and a wonderful day to parents out there. So it's examination period, and I'll be sharing a few tips how we can help our children come out with better grades this examination period. Now, there are two reasons why children read. One, children read to pass, and then children read to learn. So it's examination period right now, and they will be doing much of reading to pass, especially if they haven't been reading from the beginning of the term. So very quickly, I'll be giving us a few tips how we can help our children study and come out with good grades. Now, in case you're wondering that, haven't I paid school fees? Haven't the teachers been doing their job? Why is it my job to be teaching my children, to be helping my children prepare? You are right, you've paid school fees, the teachers have done their job, the teachers have done their work, they have taught all throughout the term. Now it's time for the child to be tested, so it's up to the child right now. And the truth of the matter is that yes, a lot of children have been in the classroom for the last 10, 11, 12 weeks. But how many of them really learned? How many of them really learned? That's another thing, because it's one thing to teach children, it's another thing for them to learn. On the other hand, some of them learned and majority of them have forgotten, because really, majority of these concepts were not things they could really hold on to. Unfortunately, the education system, or the way we teach, the way children study here, is the usual way I say it: la cram, la pour, la pass, la forget. Children just cram, they pass, and they forget about the whole concept, because it's not something they can really relate to and all of that. But that's another issue for another day. Today we'll be focusing on how we can help our children get better grades. Unfortunately, a lot of children read, or a lot of children actually don't like to read. A lot of children read but don't know how to study. These are two different things entirely. One, there are some categories of children that don't even like to read at all. Two, there are some categories of children that read and they really don't know how to study. A lot of children actually don't know how to study. You give them the book or you tell them to go and read, they just carry the book, go through the text in the book and close it. And then when you ask them questions, they really cannot remember, they really cannot define concepts, they really cannot explain, and all of that. Now, there are a few reasons for that. Number one, for this present generation, most especially, that are used to cartoons, used to movies, used to social media content and all of that, they are used to colorful and interesting content. So now, when it comes to education, when it comes to reading, it's actually very, very boring. That's why personally, I really don't even advise parents to allow their children access to so much TV time, especially during school periods. If it's possible, do away with television, do away with their phones completely all throughout the term. They will have enough time, to watch TV, to watch cartoons, to be on Facebook during the holiday. If it's possible, you can take their phones from them. That's for the teenagers, for those of them in secondary schools. You can take their phones from them. When they have assignments, they come to you, they get the phone, they do whatever they want to do, and they give it back to you. In all honesty, children in secondary school really, to a very large extent, have no business, having phones. Yes, there are some schools that are heavily into online learning and all of that, but then again, as parents, we can very well control that. So that is that. Now, one way we can help children is to ensure that they read. Ensure that they are truly studying. And how can we do that? It's not enough to tell children, go and carry your book. For some children, it will suffice. But for the majority of children, when you tell them, go and take their books, they will take the books and they're actually looking at the books. Majority of them, because of the exposure to phone, to cartoons, to colorful content and all of that, their attention span is actually very, very short. You understand? So they could actually read the first 2 pages, and before you know it, they have drifted off. They are probably thinking of the movies they've watched, the cartoons, 1 or 2 activities that has played out in the classroom or around them. So one way we can help them is, you don't leave them for too long. You don't leave them for, say, 1 hour. You tell them to go and read, and then for 1 hour, especially for children that are really struggling. There are some children that do so wonderfully well, they can by themselves study for 2, 3, 4 hours, but not every child has that capacity. And for children that don't, there's really nothing wrong with them. So you don't go about comparing your children and beginning to feel that your child has one issue or the other. No. Every child is fine. We just know where their weaknesses are and how to help them. So like I said, you don't leave them for too long, say like 1 hour, 2 hours. No, you probably give them 30 to 45 minutes. Then you call them. Yes, you call them. If you really, for this to work, you will have to dedicate your time. It's just for a few period anyway. It's not going to be for the rest of your life, or important time that you have dedicated for other things. So it's just this examination period. It should be continuous anyway, but we're focusing on this examination period right now. You call them and ask them what they have studied. Ask them what they have studied. Now, if in 30 minutes, which is actually very short, a child cannot tell you what he or she has studied, probably the first 2 pages, he cannot give you the definition of terms. You are asking the child, what do you understand by natural disasters? And the child is like, you actually know that the child actually tried to cram and is actually forgetting. So that child has not really studied. So as a parent, you take your time, or as a guardian, or if you're a lesson teacher, take your time, sit the child down, explain the concept to the child, or tell the child to read and let the child explain. He shouldn't cram, he shouldn't try to repeat verbatim. Just tell the child, just explain how you understand it in your own words. That way you'll be able to pick the child's lapses, if the child actually understood what he or she read. Because most times, for majority of these topics that are taught, the children have never seen, especially for teachers that go to class without learning aids. The children don't understand. The teacher I'm not saying all teachers anyway, I'm talking about in some cases where there are things that the child has not really seen, like for natural disasters, this particular topic I'm citing as an example now. If you're giving children examples, you're telling them natural disasters, you're giving them the definitions, you're telling them examples, earthquakes, typhoons, hurricanes. We don't have these things in Nigeria. If you talk about earthquakes, the average Nigerian child hasn't seen one. They probably must have seen a little on TV, but it really is not something they were, studying, so they really didn't have any reason to hold on to it. So as parents, take your time. That's why the internet comes in very handy. Majority of these topics, you can take your time to go over these topics with the children. Show them these things, show them videos. There's practically nothing you cannot get online. Absolutely everything. Show them these things. It stays better. Fine, they may not be able to write it exactly the way the teacher has given it in the textbook, but they have a general knowledge, and you would have done 2 things. You've helped the child study to pass, and you've actually helped the child gain knowledge. The child now knows this thing, and that is what education is all about, as opposed to what a lot of people see. A lot of people just think that it's just for you to pass and come out with your certificate. It's beyond that. You understand? I always tell people, I tell parents, I tell teachers, make sure that these children know these things for themselves. They understand this thing. They can relate with it. They know the application of this thing. So as parents, take your time. Let them study. Give them a little time. Call them. When you see that they are not getting this concept, take your time to explain to them. Show them these things. Another way we can help these children study better, as in come out with better grades in this examination, is to help them introduce mnemonics. There are some concepts that they have to memorize. Introduce mnemonics. Tie these things to something that they can very well relate, things that they see. It will help them, recall the information faster. Like I remember this first 20 elements in chemistry. My son was having issues, was trying hydrogen, helium, lithium. I said, see, during my own time, we just coined something. He has little bread but cannot offer. By the time you're writing all of that, he was able to now identify. So help children. That is why we are adults. We have experience. We have gone ahead of them. So for majority of these things, they shouldn't struggle. Help them tie majority of what they are learning to things that they can very well relate with. Also, also give them regular breaks. If you want them to study, I think that was the first point I started with. If you want them to study for 2 hours, let them study for the first 30 minutes, 40 minutes, give them 20 minutes break. And 20 minutes break is not the time where you are asking them questions. 20 minutes break is a break from studying completely. You can tell them to